This is a timeline we're living in, where Trinidad and Tobago is refusing, even downplaying, that their citizens are being murdered in Caribbean waters. And we are just supposed to accept the narrative that these actions are necessary to stop drug trafficking. Are they at that table? Investigation, reduce spending. We don't really have a problem with it. I was about to set up the background and everything for my regular taping, but that can wait. What the hell is the US going on within the Caribbean? This is just total madness now. Are we supposed to believe that the US knows of drug trafficking in Caribbean waters, and the only way to deal with this drug trafficking is to just murder people at will in the Caribbean waters? Is that what we're supposed to believe? We are supposed to believe, after this US government tried to install an illegitimate leader a few years ago and now suddenly come back now with great interest in Venezuela, which happens to have the world's largest oil reserves. Are we just now supposed to believe that the US is doing this because it has a good heart and want to stop drug trafficking in the Caribbean? We're supposed to believe that. See, they know that we don't believe it. They just don't care. This is just the narrative that they're going to go with, and they just don't care. These people who were killed on the boat in Trinidad had families. They are people with names. You know, they are people who left loved ones behind. They are not nameless, faceless people. They are people whose lives were snatched without them being given any kind of due process whatsoever. We have laws that surround that. You know, we can't just go into the Caribbean waters and see people on a boat and take their lives. There's a word for that, and that word is murder. Doesn't matter who does it. The UK Guardian named 2 Trinidadian nationals among 6 people killed in a recent US strike on an alleged drug boat as Chad Charpo Joseph and Rishi Samaru from the northern Trinidad fishing village of Las Cuevas. Their families are demanding justice and have accused the Trump administration of killing poor people. Family and community members told The Guardian that they felt betrayed by their own government and at the mercy of a Trump administration that has been given unfettered access to their waters. The family members also say that they have not been contacted by anyone from the Trinidadian government about the death, the murder of their family members. We're in an era now where these types of rogue actions and this kind of regime change that the US has often, carried out for the last, 50, 60 years is right in front of our face. We have information now in real time. So when they do things, we can get wind of it pretty quickly. Not months later, not weeks later. We get wind of it pretty immediately, almost immediately in real time. And that's a problem they're having now, is that they can't carry out these covert actions without people knowing about it. And they don't know how to manage that. And I feel like now we're at a point where they don't care to manage that either. Remember, we just watched 2 full years. Still ongoing, by the way. There's no ceasefire. Ceasefire is a narrative now. We're in a managed PR of a genocide. The genocide has not stopped. We've watched 2 years of these people carrying out a genocide in front of our faces, and they don't care that we know. They don't care that we can see the bodies of babies in half. They don't care that we can see people being burned alive. They don't care. You understand me? They don't care. So why would they care if we know that they are murdering people in Caribbean waters? They don't care. But here is who should care. Our Caribbean leaders. They should care. They should not be vassals of the United States in this, the year of our Lord 2025. They should care that their people are at risk. They should care that their fishermen can't go out to the sea and do what they need to do and make their honest living. They should care. You shouldn't be telling your own citizens to stay close to the shore. People who have been going fishing for years upon years upon years. People who this is their livelihood. Your response is to keep close to the shore. Our Prime Minister is now heading CARICOM. And the first statement that they put out was a very neutral statement, not taking a firm position to stand up for the region. But Trinidad and Tobago, which lost citizens, didn't have anything to say. They reserved their position. Did not have anything to say in defense of their citizens. What is going on? What is going on? What kind of timeline am I living in where leaders of countries are not standing up for their citizens? What kind of timeline is this? That people are afraid to defend their own citizens? Just a few weeks ago, we had some brave souls who went on the flotilla trying to break the siege in Gaza and trying to bring aid to starving people, to people who need medicine, to people who need food. And they were accosted and kidnapped in international waters by the rogue occupation state, by the rogue state. They were kidnapped in international waters, held, and some of them tortured. And these countries did not speak up for their citizens. Do you understand the timeline we are in when things can happen to you? You can be kidnapped. You can be tortured. You can be murdered. And your state does not care. Do you understand the timeline we are living in? Your country does not care that another country is doing that to you. This is a timeline we're living in, where Trinidad and Tobago is refusing, even downplaying, that their citizens are being murdered in Caribbean waters. And we are just supposed to accept the narrative that these actions are necessary to stop drug trafficking. Where is drug trafficking? We've been told for years that countries that have a death penalty for drug trafficking, that those countries are not observing human rights. We've been told that these countries are breaking international law and these countries are against human rights. So what we have seen in the last 2 years is that there are countries that are allowed to break international law. There are countries who are allowed to abuse people's human rights constantly, consistently, and in the most heinous of ways. We're not supposed to care, and we are not supposed to say anything about it. It should be okay if one country does it, and it is not okay when another country does. NPR spoke to Brian Finucane, I hope I pronounced that correctly, of the International Crisis Group about the legality of these U.S. strikes on supposed drug boats in Caribbean waters. And here's what Finucane said. When you see the premeditated killing of another person outside of an armed conflict, there's a term for that, and that term is murder. The administration has not established that the United States is in an armed conflict with any criminal entity in Latin America, and has not established that this operation is governed by the law of war, and has not established that the targets of this operation, whether the passengers on the boat or the cargo on the boat, were lawful targets under the law of war. He went further to say designating an entity as a foreign terrorist organization neither confirms nor confers authority under U.S. law to use military force, nor does it magically transfer or transform that entity into a lawful military target. This is the U.S. On its usual modus operandi. This is what the U.S. is doing in the Caribbean. It's not new. But it certainly is concerning, to say the least, that our governments are watching this take place, not standing up for their citizens and not standing up for their Caribbean neighbors. It is not lost on me that it is also our governments that turned their backs on the Haitian citizens, that repatriated without giving the due process of asylum to Haitians who fled to our shores seeking asylum. It is not lost on me that these are the same governments who sided with their imperial friends to attempt, at least, to implement some kind of imperial structure in Haiti. It's not lost on me that it's the same governments that are now silent as this imperial capitalist machine moves through the Caribbean waters on its murderous endeavor, on its way to regime change, to continue their capitalist plunder of Venezuela's resources. And as we say in Jamaica, same knife we stick goat, stick sheep.